Hey guys, so I've got a whole bunch of various little parts and pieces here that I need to take and weld together. So I figured what we'll do is I will take and walk you guys through it and kind of talk a bit about different relationships between these parts and critical dimensions. So guys, based on that, let's get started. Move some of these out of the way. We're going to start with this piece of pipe here and this little plate. So these come together like this. We're going to come flush on the back. This plate is ever so slightly wider, or sorry, the pipe here. The pipe is ever so slightly wider than the plate. And that's fine, it's really not critical. But what we need this is to be straight in both dimensions. So I need it to be perpendicular in this dimension and perpendicular this way as well. So with that, what we're going to do is we're going to take a square on this and we're going to come off of the plate. Back you guys up so you can see a little better. Notice how we've got quite a bit of gap on the top here, so we're actually tilted a little bit in that direction, and that's perfectly fine. We can certainly work with that. Now I can't really go off of the side here very well because we're going off of the table. You guys can see here we've got the square right on the table, and I already know that this table is not perfectly flat. So we could definitely be introducing some air in here. So what we're going to do is kind of measure this one side. That actually looks pretty close. And we're going to measure the other side. That's actually going pretty good. So not bad whatsoever. Looks like we're ever so slightly tilted in that direction. Maybe a degree or something. Not very much. Maybe a degree. So based on that, I think our major issue here is right there. Now guys, this is a perfect way for me to explain how to tack this up. Since we're taking, and the pipe is tilted off in this direction, what we need to do is actually tack it right here on the inside. And we're going to throw a tack on here because remember, tacks or welds really are always strong and tensile when you're trying to pull them apart. So what happens here is that if we tack right here, it doesn't want to move in that direction, but we can put a little bit of compression force on it and tilt it in that direction, which is exactly what we want to do. Because since our pipe is tilted slightly in that direction, to the left of the screen here, then we can take and tack here and tilt it back. Now if we tack the back side over here, remember this pipe is still off and we need to tilt it to the right of the screen. We would have to pull against that tack, which would be not very easy. So we'll tack on the inside here. Now I'm going to adjust this gently. Try not to move anything more than I have to. And let's take and throw a quick tack in here, just to hold it still. Oops. Get my foot pedal in the right spot. There we go. There we go. Okay, now we got a tack. We're going to come right next to that tack. We certainly still have a bit of gap here, and that's okay. We're going to see if anything else changed. Yep, looks like we're tilted in that direction as well on the sides. Again, that could certainly be air introduced by the table. We'll try to avoid that as much as we can. So it looks like we actually need to tilt this a little bit in both directions here. Yeah, that's pretty close. Yeah, there we go. So we are square here. I think we're pretty good in this direction. We're pretty good in that direction. Trying not to move this around any more than I have to, but keep it in frame, I definitely need to. So we're still ever so slightly tilted that way, but we're pretty square this way. So what I'm thinking is we'll take and tack this one side over here. See how that works for us. I tell you, it definitely is screwy when you can move it around on the table and change the angles. That's less than ideal. Makes it way hard to get this straight. But just slightly off. Come on. Sometimes guys, you just gotta tap it. Whack it with a hammer. See how it goes. Okay. Pretty happy with that. Okay, guys, so we're square right here. I think I'm going to throw a tack here on the back just to make sure that we stay square. Hopefully we don't move when I do this tack. There we go. Try to keep that to a minimum. A little bit. I tell you, definitely difficult to get it square. That's why you always have a big hammer. Sometimes it's just a little bit. That's all you need. That'll work. All right. So we've got this pretty much tacked in place here. Just a few tacks to hold it up. Now, this angle here is square. That's what we wanted. But this angle here, back and forth, is probably not. But that's not critical, because what we're going to do is lay this down, bring in this other piece over here, and this piece is going to be welded to this other side. What it is here is that we need the edge of this and the edge of this to be parallel to each other. Now again, my table's not 100% flat, but we should be able to get pretty reasonably close with it. So we want to come in with the square. And we want to make sure that we're square in this direction. I've got some holes in here, so I do want to make sure I pay attention to my holes. It's not super critical where they are. I just want them out front so I can access them. That looks good right there. Adjust it just a bit. Now let's see if I can tack this without it moving. Nope, there is way too much gap in there. We're going to have to add a little fill of metal. There we go. All right, we want to keep this flat so these are in alignment to each other. I'm going to throw a tack here on the other side so we don't take and don't have too much air. That's going to want to warp. There we go. Now you guys can see screwy as hell, but that's from our tacks. So let's just grab the grinder over here. We'll just flatten those off. Well, let's see. There we go, guys. Minimal movement. I think we're doing pretty good. All right, so I think those two are on the same plane. Now what we can actually do here is look at putting these other little plates on, like that. So these sit right here. Let's move that a little more centered. So these sit right here, and ideally they're kind of centered on the pipe itself in this direction. And these corners here are centered on that plate. Now, do I want these to be pretty straight? Yeah. But, so you guys are aware, the dimensions exactly how this sits on are not critical. Nothing's going to really interact with this. This is just going to be a brace. So I'm not going to sit here and try to dial that in because there's just no need for it. So we're just going to take and tack it right in place. Now let's do a tack on the inside of the plate here. And real quick before that moves, we'll tack the other side. There we go. That's in. Good gap on the sides here. Nothing's too screwy. Looks good. Let's take and throw our other one on here. Then we'll go through and actually weld the whole joint together and see how it turns out. So we're going to kind of center that there. Kind of center the pipe here. Perfect. Again, non-critical dimensions, non-critical anything with this, so we're just going to throw it in and throw some tacks on it to hold it still. Perfect. There we go, guys. I think that looks nice so far. Now let's go back and check some stuff. See how close we are. That's pretty reasonable right there. Let that tack down in there. Slightly off on that one right there. Just a degree or so off, I guess. I don't think it's going to be critical, guys. We're definitely going to have some play on this, so I'm not going to be super critical here. Okay, let's take and weld this on. That's one. We're going to immediately flip it over and do the other side. Guys, I think I definitely need some practice on the TIG welding. I mean, it works, but it's not as pretty as it could be. Yeah, definitely needs some practice. Other side, that filler's too short, we'll use another. Other side. I'm going to tilt my torch a bit. There we go. A little bit more heat into that top plate, I think. Yeah, there we go. All right, welded together, certainly strong enough now, but I think I'm going to come in and weld on this plate here, just to make sure that that's nice and strong. We'll do one right here on the back side of this. We'll just come up to the tack. Readjust and run a little down. Really uncomfortable position here. There we go. And then we'll do the other side here, adjust the torch angle a bit. Oh yeah, this is a terrible angle. Sure, there's a TIG welder out there cringing right now for that particular one. Angle was all off on it. But welded together. Let me tell you guys, those welds here on the outside, those are the ones that are really going to handle the stress on this. If we need to, we'll come in on the inside and throw some welds in here if we notice any bowing or anything, but I very much doubt that we're going to have any of those problems. Alright, so next we have this plate right here. And this needs to go on top of it like that. Now obviously this is all going to be weirdly weighted because we have all of this on top of it. So we're going to have to kind of work around it, especially since this piece of tubing is getting way hot. Let's see, how do we want to clamp this down? Alright guys, so I shut the camera off mostly because this took me several minutes to get this confusion all set up. Now let me take and explain to you guys exactly what I did here. So I took our part, laid it flat on the table, and then what I did is I took the level and I was running off of this surface right here. So this surface right here, I made nice and flat and level. And then it was slightly off, so I put this bar across here so I could tweak that a little bit to get this surface in perfectly level. And then what I did with that is I used the level surface there to bring this surface into level. And if this surface right here is level and that surface right there is level, then that means in theory everything is all in alignment. Now along with that, I also took and put some angle iron here on the side to make sure that this angle right here is 90 degrees. I put some angle iron underneath here to make sure that angle is 90 degrees. So that way that we were square, or I would say perpendicular here. Perpendicular in this direction, perpendicular in this direction, and basically on the same plane in this twisting direction as well. That way this is level and that's level. So guys, it definitely took me a few minutes to get there, but we got there in the end. Now, I wouldn't have had to take and make this whole menagerie here if I had some 1, 2, 3 blocks. And unfortunately, guys, I just don't have a set of 1, 2, 3 blocks here in the garage. I might have to go over and pick up a set just for reasons like this. If I had some 1, 2, 3 blocks, I would have referenced this surface over here and then ran blocks and to build up the surfaces and then got this into alignment, and it would have been one hell of a lot easier to run. But we got there in the end, guys. Pay attention to my relationships to make sure everything's still in alignment, everything's still square, nothing's twisted, and I think we're right there. So I'm going to take and pull all these clamps out. I did throw some tacks in here just to hold everything in place as soon as I got it in place. Well, I'm going to pull all the clamps and stuff out, we'll set it on the table, and then we'll finish out the welding on it. So I'll see you guys here in just a second. Alright guys, so I took and I pulled it out. It's held on with just these 2 tacks here, so I don't really want to move this around any more dramatically than I have to. It looks like we're in alignment on everything. Everything looks in the right spot. So what we're going to do is grab our ground clamp. I'm just going to kind of set the ground clamp. There we go. That'll work. And grab my torch here, along with a piece of filler material. And let's just take and throw some more tacks on here. Make sure we're not going to move around at all. And then we'll take and weld the whole thing out. Nice little tacks there. Don't want to introduce any more heat than I have to. So we got it nice and secure. I think that's pretty reasonable. All right, let's take and do a short piece of weld here. Now I'm just going to rotate this around and we'll do another section on the other part of it here. Don't want to just weld in one spot or I'll end up getting it too hot. And we'll come about halfway between those. Do another. Now, if you guys are curious here, I'm just doing a lay wire technique. And what this is I'm basically just taking my filler rod and just pushing it right there on the up against the weld. So I'm not dipping or doing any sort of anything. I'm just shoving this rod into the puddle. Normally you would take and do a bit of a dip motion, but I just don't need to on this because I can just shove that rod in there and it seems to be melting together pretty well. Rotate and then we'll do another. We'll come all the way around so we can spread the heat out a little more. Drop my filler right on the ground, so grab another one. All right, two more little sections. Hey guys, a lot of people don't realize that normally when you're doing something like this, the actual welding aspect of it is pretty minimal. You can see I'm doing the welding here and it's not taking us very long to do. It took me way longer to get this all tacked up. And especially to cut all the parts. So the welding really didn't take very long at all here. There we go. Make sure we got everything. I think we did. Oh, hold on a second here. Don't like how that's melded together. Let's go back over it. There we go. This right here is the real benefit of TIG. I don't necessarily have to add filler if I don't want to. Alright, there we go, guys. got this funny little shape built. Everything's all in alignment and wonderful and looks good. Alright, so we'll take and get it mounted, drill the holes and tap them. And let's get that set up, so I'll see you guys in just a second. Well guys, I almost forgot to put the nuts on here. So let's do a real quick tack here. And let's get these nuts in place. It's a nice little small tack. Flip that over, do the other side. We'll do this one. Flip it real quick, do the other side. Alright, there we are. Bolts are still loose, so we're still good. Now that we're tacked in place, let's actually weld them down. Flip it over, we'll do the other side. Getting just a bit of contamination because these are galvanized. I'll be careful welding that galvanized. Alright, there we go. Now I'm not going to weld all the way around these because there's really no need for it. I normally do, but these small little welds on either side are plenty strong enough to hold in the little set screws that we're going to apply. Now I'm just going to let those cool for now. And what we'll do is set this up here and drill the holes, mount it in place. Okay guys, so we need to adjust this. I think what we're going to do for starters is pull the number off of this, which is 2, and do a nice center line. Once we have our center line, then we can actually adjust this a little bit. And then what we'll do is we'll pull off of this and run square. Square to that back edge there. Move it over just a bit. There we are. All right, so that should be our spot. Let's take and mark our holes here. All right. There's our holes. Or marks, really. What we're going to do is come in here with this little punch, center punch. We're going to mark the centers. All right, for mark. So next, guys, we want to take and drill these out. What we're going to do is use the magnetic drill press. So let me grab it. I'll be right back. All right, guys, I'm back. So I put the plate on here, got the magnetic drill press. I'm going to turn the magnet on just so it doesn't fall over on me. I put some clamps on here and on the far side as well, just to keep it tied to the table so we could pull this out so it's clear underneath here and we're not going to drill through our own table. What we can do is line this up and then we'll take and drill through. Let me get in here where I can see what's going on. And we'll line this up perfectly with those little marks that we did. There we go. All right, guys, here we go. All right, guys, that's one. Turn off the magnet. Get some of these chips out of the way so I can move this around and keep it flat. I don't want a chip to get up underneath the magnet. And let's come over here to the other one. There we go. Move you guys in here a little closer, you can watch it drill through the plate. This is pretty thick material. And there we go. All right, let's do the next one. Well guys, my camera cut out on me, so fortunately I had to quit filming it, but I'm going to bring you guys up to speed. So I took our part here, mounted it down. When I left you guys, we drilled the holes. I tapped these holes with the 3/8/16 tap, and then mounted our part down onto the actual plate. Now let me adjust this a little bit here, and we'll show you guys how this works. So this allows our adjustment, our offsetness, I guess, to be mounted to the plate, but then also to be offset up top here. We have our big table right here that allows our adjustment. So let's take this, adjust how this is sitting. And what we're going to do, guys, is take and drop the sleeve in here on the top, which I have right here. We're going to take our sleeve, shove it down in here all the way, and I'm going to take these little set screws and tighten these up. This is just going to take and hold this in place. We really don't need a lot of adjustment with those screws. They're just little 3/8/16 set screws. Now we can actually take the head. We'll adjust the camera again here. Now we can take the actual head of the drill press and we'll set it right on top. There we go. Now I'm just going to kind of center this. I'm not going to be super critical on any dimensions at the moment. More, this is just a proof of concept than it is us dialing this in. But still, we're going to tighten it up and everything, make sure it's going to work. There we go. Set screws tightened. And here we go, guys. We have our drill press mounted. I mounted it with the table here, so the table's going to be able to adjust back and forth. And we're going to be able to take and drill some holes through here, and everything looks good. Now guys, the next step on this is going to be to actually mount the vise. So I have this vise here. I've got a little piece of plate inside of it. I want to mount this to it. Now let me tell you, a lot of guys, when they drill holes in a drill press like this, they just throw their vise on here anywhere and don't even strap it down, don't do anything to it. And it always bugs the crap out of me, because if this is drilling a hole in this plate up here and something goes wrong, it'll kick this vise. And I don't want that to happen. So what we're going to do is actually properly secure it using these little T-nuts. So this has a nut. It has the internal threads in there. Hopefully you guys can see that. But it has a T shape. Now how this works is that these T-nuts actually slide in to the table here. I have two of them, so we'll put one on either side. And they'll lock themselves into the table. Then what we can do is take a bolt, and we're going to just bolt these into those T-nuts. and we can actually lock this vise down. Now, this vise still has a lot of adjustment in this, but what we're going to do is just pull it all the way back so that the bolts here are set on the inside of these grooves up top. Just to give us a point of reference here so we have somewhere to be not super critical. Again, more proof of concept. I want to kind of show you guys how this works than where you're going to be super precise on aligning everything. Remember, this is a drill press, so we don't need it to be super accurate. It's not like we're trying to get down to a few thousandths of an inch or something. Basically, as long as it's pretty steady, that's really what's key here. All right, there we go. Vise is mounted. Well, guys, I think we should take and drill a hole on this. Let's take and do it. So I'm going to open up our chuck right here. Just going to grab a random drill bit. No, I don't want that one. Yeah, there we go. This one. That's way better. Okay, now this is a keyed chuck, so it does have a key that goes with it. Stick this in here, and that's what's used to actually tighten this down. We're going to take this key and make sure it stays right here next to this, but that's a project for another day. Now, as you guys can see, our drill bit is nowhere close to where our plate is, but luckily we've installed this little table, and we could actually move this around a little bit till that will actually line up with the center of the plate. So if I was slightly off on my mark, I could just turn the table a little bit. Slightly new spot. I think that'll work nicely. All right, let's plug it in. And we'll see this thing actually work. Oh, can't forget to throw a little lubricant on here. All right, guys, here we go. First test with everything. Everything looks nice and secure. Things holding in place. Nothing looks weird or screwy. We do have a little light here from the actual drill press, so let's even use that. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, guys. Got no power. Hold on, let's figure out what's going on. All right, so come to find out, guys, if we plug in the other side of the cord, it actually works. Who would have guessed? Okay, let's give it a go. Turn it on. All right, wow.
There we go.
I thought we were having an issue for a second there. I think I was just feeding too fast. We got good chips. Let's open up the vise a bit. Holy crap, guys. We drilled a hole in a piece of plate. All right, guys. Well, that is the drill press mounted down. Everything looks great. It certainly works. And we'll see you guys for the next video.